you got to choose to be what you're supposed to be, right? And so you brought up Pastor Joshua Rod. I was in this terrible relationship and I just kept calling him like, yo, what do I do? And one day he just stopped me. Son, what kind of man are you? And he would not explain the question. He would not break down what he meant. So at first, I mean, what you mean? What kind of man am I? Like, you trying to square up? Like, what's going on? And he's, son, what kind of man are you? And he kept asking me that question, just kept asking me the question no matter what I said. And so finally, I went to trying to answer him. And he said, okay, good. We got to start. That question rang in my head probably for months. And it wasn't long after that where I realized, okay, as a man, I've got some choices to make.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another segment of the Bold Lounge, Believe, Overcome, Lead, and Deliver. I'm Ramos, and we have a very special guest, and we have a very special topic that we're going to be talking about today. He's no stranger to the Bold Lounge, Pastor Leo Corley. I had him on. We were talking about shepherding the church through an S.2 lens. He's a very strong, inspirational brother. He pastors a church, Christ Nation in Long Island, New York. I've known him for several years and watched him grow and develop, and it's just a pleasure to sit down with you, my brother, and have this kind of conversation. And so before we go any further, man, let the people know who you are.
Well, first of all, I'm your brother. I'm your little brother. So I appreciate you for the opportunity to be here, man. And it's always a joy to have a conversation with you and sit down and really just chop it up. And so I'm just glad for the opportunity to share what I'm working on first with the Bold Lounge. So what's up, everybody? I'm Pastor Leo Corley. As he said, I pastor Christ Nation Church in Baldwin, New York. And I do a lot of different things. And so this is my latest project. I've recently written a book, and the name of the book is Choice Changed My Life. I got it right here. This is the editor's copy, but the name of the book is Choice Changed My Life. And my book is in pre-order right now and will be fully available in a hard copy and in an ebook or a digital copy this Friday, April 3rd. And so I want everybody to go out and pre-order the book. I'll make sure that the link is included somewhere. If you're not following me on social media, follow me at the Pastor Leo on everything. And you'll be able to get the link from my social media pages as well. So again, I'm excited about this. Now, I know this is like way off, like kind of topic and schedule, but something just hit me. If you would have asked me what the Bold Lounge stood for, like before this started, I wouldn't have been able to give you the acronym, and that's really sad because I've been involved. But when you said it, something hit me. So give me the acronym again.
Believe, overcome, lead, and deliver.
Man, that's me.
So believe in yourself. Believe in your mission, believe in your purpose, overcome the obstacles that may come your way, because the ultimate goal is for you to lead and deliver God's kingdom to the people.
Yeah. I love the acronym because as a believer and overcomer and as a leader, I'm all of those things. I'm delivering here. And I want to start off by encouraging every person under the sound of my voice, every person that's going to watch this, every person that's going to comment, like, share, whatever, every person that's going to see this. I want to encourage you that God is empowering you right now to deliver. That whatever idea you have in your heart and in your head, if you are a leader, if you are a believer, if you are an overcomer, then you can and will deliver. If you got a book in your heart, write it. I don't care if nobody in your bloodline has ever written a book, write the book. If you want to sing and produce music or play and produce music, then put the album together and put the music out. Whatever it is, if you're a believer and you're an overcomer and you believe in your heart of hearts that you're a leader, you can and will deliver. And I want to encourage you, whatever is in your heart and your mind, get it out. Get it out. I always tell people, minister, I want to die empty. I want to die having emptied myself of everything that's there. And I got a whole lot that's still here, which means by God's grace, I'm going to have a whole lot more time. I'm working on some other books right now. I'm working on some music. And so I want to die empty. I want to die having given everything that's in me to give to the world and to the people of God specifically. So
that's powerful.
I love the acronym, man. It just hit me. I'm sorry. I don't know why it didn't hit me the last time. So,
well, we were on a whole nother topic the last time, but you know, I'm glad that you put it out there, and I have a few questions for you. But the first one is, what really inspired you to write this book?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. We ain't talk about that one. All right. So what inspired me to write the book, I had a couple of people years ago, like, you need to be writing, you need to write, you're this, you're that, and you need to share that with more people. Then that matured into, I put all my energy into leading the church and the churches. And someone was like, your pulpit is beyond your pulpit. Your stage is beyond your stage. You can reach more people by putting the same message in a different format, in a different arena, in a different place, and you'll be able to reach more people. So all of that encouraged me, all of that pushed me, but what really did it for me was I needed this book. There were times in my life I went through things. I needed somebody to say, hey, you have the power to choose. I needed somebody to say, God has given you dominion. I needed somebody to say, the only reason why you're going through what you're going through right now is because you chose this. Right? Now you can choose to not choose it any longer. I needed that type of stern talking to. And so that's why I put the book together. So I put my heart and soul into it, man. This is not a chat GPT written book. This is not like sermon, the book, those companies that write the book for you. Like, I sat on planes flying from home to the church every weekend, going and coming. And I wrote this book and I put what was in my heart and my mind and what God showed me and what God gave me, into this book. And so this is like my, this is like my epistle to the
This is your
2026 and
John
beyond
moment.
church. Yeah,
This is your
yeah,
John
yeah, yeah,
moment. That's what it is.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you didn't have to
yeah.
go to
So
Patmos. You had to go to Patmos, but you had
100%,
to write.
100. This is Paul writing to the church of Corinth and Ephesus, but this is Leo writing to the church of New York and the church of the East Coast and the church of the rest of the country and this hemisphere. So it's crazy because how many times have you heard people say to you when they're giving you advice, stuff like follow your heart, or stuff like go with the flow, or just let it flow, just let it happen, right? But how many times do you hear people telling you, hey, you have dominion? God has literally given you choice making power. He's given you jurisdiction to make decisions, right? Like, I'm inspired. I don't know, like, people like speed over these parts of the Bible, but when Adam was placed in the earth, he had an interaction with God. God brought all of the animals to Adam. And the Bible says he brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever he called them, that was his name. In other words, it pleased God to watch Adam make choices and decisions. And that means, I believe, that it pleases God to watch us make certain decisions. Like, I think the greatest decision we can make is choosing him, right? To obey him, to follow him, to serve him. I think God's delighted in that, right? Well, if he's delighted in that, I also think he's delighted in some of the decisions that we make that push us further and further, well, closer and closer to our destiny. So
And when
I want people to,
and when I hear you talk, I'm hearing obedience, right? I'm hearing willingness, because a lot of us struggle a lot of times because we don't have that mentorship.
yeah,
We don't have that Elijah Elisha relationship. We don't have
yeah,
that Paul Timothy relationship. And you and I share sort of like the same mentor, right? John Sherrod.
yeah, yeah,
And John Sherrod told me the same thing years ago, and that's what made me sort of start to write. He said, Ray, God has called you to write your story so that you can reach people in need. He says you have a passion for helping young men, older men, and God has called you for such a season to write. So, like, I can hear the passion that, you needed that mentor, and someone spoke into you to tell you this is the path you need to go. Because then we go through life and people will tell us, yeah, this is how you need to man up, men don't cry, this, that, and the other. People give you those
yep,
type of things, but there's really no content or no substance
yeah,
behind it, and you just go
yeah.
blindly.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. And you and I both know, first of all, shout out to you on what you were able to do in New York with the Hype program, with Men of Elmont, with the other programs that mirrored that model. You were able to show men, first of all, the honor of being a man, the power of taking the reins of being a man, and how it impacts and influences other people and blesses other people when you walk the way God designed for you to walk as a man. And so I believe one of those tenets somewhere in there is making choices. I know it sounds simple, but it's really about making choices. And so I think a lot of people don't understand. Bishop T.D. Jakes says it like this. He says, when you're born looking like your parents. When you die, you die looking like your decisions. And so I think it's up to us to make good decisions and make good choices in between. We have no power. We have no decision-making power over where we're born, who we're born to, when we're born, or even why we're born, right? That is all predetermined by God, right? That's the I'm a burger guy, right? So that's the top bun, or you can say the bottom bun, either or, right? The bottom bun in this case is when you die and when you transition. You honestly have no control over when you die because he is in
Yeah.
control of that. His sovereignty it controls when you can try to take your life, and if God says it's not time. Period. Right.
Right.
And so you don't have control over how long you're gonna live, how short you're gonna live, but you do have control over what you do once God gives you life. Right. You can choose to relocate. You can choose what I live my life in such a way so that I don't have many regrets, right? The
Yeah.
only regret that I have is not going to an HBCU and not going away, right? That's the
Right.
only regret that I have. Now, if I look back on why I have that regret and why I made that choice, it's because I didn't understand the power of my choices at that time, right?
Mhm.
And here's the other thing. I had made a choice. I wanted to be an architect. I decided I wanted to go to Cornell University probably in like 9th, 10th grade, right? So I applied to all of these schools, but it really didn't matter where I applied. I knew I wanted to go to Cornell. So long story short, I graduate from high school, haven't heard from Cornell. Nothing. Late August, I get a letter from them saying, hey, unfortunately, we're unable to accept you into Cornell University for architecture at this time. And I'm like, one, I'm kind of like offended. And then at the same time, I'm like, why are you letting me know this now? Like if I didn't sign up for this other school, right, that I didn't have to apply for, basically, if I didn't enroll, then I wouldn't be in school right now waiting on y'all. 6 months later, maybe a year later, my mom finds an acceptance letter mixed in with some old mail from Cornell. And I was accepted. But if you don't respond to an acceptance letter and you don't fulfill the requirements, they will send you a denial letter at a certain point to say, hey, listen, you didn't fulfill your
Mm.
requirements, so that their enrollment numbers are not off. Now,
Mhm.
here's why I'm giving you that story, right? At the time, I had made the choice. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew why I wanted to go there. I knew what I wanted to do, right? I understood all of that. But do you know how to make decisions, and do you know how to pivot when problems arise and plans change? That's the thing that we need to understand. Like, I need to be able to make decisions under pressure. I need to be able to make good decisions when the sun is out and when it's storming and snowing and raining. And I'm saying that figuratively, right? We need to be able to make good decisions even when we're grieving, even when we're dealing with depression, when we're dealing with frustration and disappointment. We still need to be able to make good decisions and choices because the rest of our lives are relying on the decisions we make right now.
Yeah, you gotta have that backup plan. I was a victim of that, right?
Yeah.
Came out of high school, was playing ball. My coaches had asked, "Look, do you want to get a football scholarship?" But I was too busy being angry. I didn't play football for the sport. I played football to hurt people because I was hurt. And so when coming out of high school, I graduated 6 months early. I was done with high school.
Yeah.
I had to wait for graduation, and my focus was to go into the military because
Okay.
I was in search of identity. I wanted to go into the
That's
Coast
good.
Guard, actually. And the Coast Guard was very hard to get into back in the 80s. You had to have certain test scores. I obtained the test scores, but then they would only let 12 people in per year. 12 people. Where
Wow.
the other services, you could just sign up, raise your right hand, and you go right into the service. And so I graduated early and I had to wait for my diploma. Back in 1980, that was the first year of the Regents diploma.
Okay.
And they didn't give you a physical diploma at graduation. You had to wait for it to be mailed to your house. By the time they mailed it to my house, and I went to the recruiter, said, all right, I'm ready. I've been training, swimming. I said, I want to be a Coast Guard diver because I love swimming in the ocean and all this other stuff. They said, unfortunately, we can't let you in because the window had already closed. They had already gotten their 12 recruits for the year. So
Man.
now I didn't go look into a football scholarship, which I could have probably got. Some other guys in my team went to other universities. I didn't know about HBCUs, nor was I interested at that time because I was too caught up in my lack of self-identity and anger issues. And so I didn't have a backup plan. And that took me years to correct because then I had to go to a community college. I really didn't want to go there. Just spiraled out of control. But now looking back at certain things, sometimes God closes certain doors. Sometimes he may hide an acceptance letter because that's not where he wants you to be. That's not
Mm-hmm.
ultimately where he wants you to go. So for my road, he chose this path for me so that I can create such a platform as this, so that I can become a minister that goes to the people as opposed to wait for the people to come to me. My gift is to find people where they are, the brokenness, the shame, the restoration and reconciliation process, and kind of say, you know what? I get it. I understand. I've been there. But this is what the God I serve says.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when
I
you
love
write
that.
this book, what target audience are you really who are you trying to reach through your book?
So it's funny, like in ministry, when people ask you about your target audience, I'm the guy that will always say everybody. Everybody's my target audience, right? But with this book, I have to say, I wrote this book with the young man in mind who was always told he was stupid, he wasn't going to be anything. I wrote this book for the young man that just didn't know that he has the power to choose, that he had the right, the God-given right to choose, that he had the God-given right to make decisions, and that the life he was going to live will be a result of the decisions he made when he was young. A lot of us as men find out too late in life that the decisions I made when I was 14, 15, 16, I'll give you an example. No disrespect. I don't want to dishonor anybody, but I have a cousin who's been in prison for he's got to do a minimum of 40 years. And that was when he was in his teens. So he has never been free as an adult as a result of his decisions. I know why he made the decision he made. I know why he felt he had to make that decision. It wasn't just, oh, I went out and I was reckless. But at the end of the day, you made a choice and there was a cause and now there's an effect. So I wrote this book for every young man that wasn't taught, hey, listen, you have the right to make decisions. You have the right to choose. Choose well. Choose wisely, right? I wrote this book for the young woman who was once a little girl that had, older experienced women tell her, but you got to wait for a man to dictate what kind of life you're going to have. You got to wait for a man to choose you that will determine what you will accomplish and where you will go and what you will be able to do. Even as an adult, I hate putting I want to say this the right way, but I've made certain choices in life so that nobody else can dictate my lifestyle, even down to pastoring a church, right? I'm not on salary, but let's say I was. When you're on salary, your salary is determined by what the people give and what that church is able to do. And then you got to be careful about what you spend because you don't want to have the right persona. Like, I'm spending all the people's money. We should be doing this kind of ministry. And I just bought a Mercedes. So I always said, it doesn't matter what the church does. I'm going to work. That was a decision I always made. I'm going to have a career. I'm going to start businesses. I'm going to have my own income because I know how I want to live. I know what I want to be able to do. And I don't want that choice and that decision to be in the hands of somebody else. Right. And so I just think that there are so many people that don't realize that there's always a choice. You always have a choice. You always have it. It's not always easy. Right. And it's not always obvious either. But with God, all things are possible. And I even believe that in the realm of making decisions and making choices. So I wrote this with the little girl in mind. And some of us are grown adults, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. And we still that little girl, we still that little boy, right? That was called ugly, that was called stupid, that,
It's called fat.
conversely, all of that, right? This is all you ever going to be. And perfect example, right? Because there are people who say I'm going to make a lifestyle change and I'm going to lose this weight. That was the result of a choice you made that says I'm going to change my life for the rest of my life by what I do right now. That's exactly who I wrote this book for. I wrote this book for people who are also in a place of struggle, feeling lost, feeling alone, feeling like they don't have that sounding board, feeling like they don't know which way to go. They lack direction and they're waiting on somebody else to tell them what to do and where to go. Right. And so this book is like me getting the opportunity to whisper in their ear or call them and say, hey, listen, you got the right to choose. You got the power to choose. So this book is for everybody, right? Like I even look at people who are older in age, right? Now they've experienced a major life change. Well, you get to choose what the rest of your days look like. I say it like this book is an expression of a phrase that I always say to the church. I say, listen, to exist is to simply allow life to happen to you. But to live is to be intentional about the way you make life happen. Now, we know God's in control. We know God's sovereign. We know God has final jurisdiction. So there are certain things that I believe we will not be able to do if we really belong to God. But I will say this, God gives us a lot of room to make choices. When we pray, God, we thank you for this food that I'm about to receive, blah, 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 whatever your prayer is, your blessing or grace is over your food. But let's be honest, God didn't choose that turkey sandwich you eat. God did not choose the catfish. He did not choose the fries. You chose that, right? And it's to his delight to give you the right to choose. So if he gave you the right to make these small choices, then why didn't he give you the right? You can choose where you want to live.
Free will.
100%. 100%. So that's what this book is about. And it's to any person that really doesn't understand that, or who needs more understanding of how to do this, because I map out steps of what to do, how to do it, how to create the right space and right environment to make decisions. Because you think about a person who's going through a domestic violence situation with a whole bunch of kids. You don't have a peaceful space to make decisions all the time. You don't have a safe space. You don't have a sounding board to be able to sit and go, if I leave, what are the ramifications of me leaving? How does this impact the children? How does this impact this? If I leave, am I going to have to go into witness protect? Like, these are things that people are really going through. And it's like a lot of people are making decisions under duress. And people like John Maxwell are like, yo, you can create an environment where you can think for a change. I love that book. It's called Thinking for a Change by John Maxwell. Right. And so in this book, I include sentiments of that where it's like, yo, put yourself in a place where you can think for a change. So that's what this is
Actually
written
teaches leadership classes at church. Classes just graduated on Sunday. And one of the biggest things I taught them was one of the lessons we taught, I think called the law of the buy-in. Said people don't follow the message until they believe in the messenger.
Yeah.
And so, with your book being you're creating a light in the world that's dark. Every morning I pray. I pray for your church. I pray for Pastor Rod's church. I pray for the church that I'm going to. I pray for Pastor Curtis's church every morning. And I pray that the doors to those tabernacles always remain a beacon of light in the world that's dark, where people can find faith, trust, restoration, and reconciliation.
Yeah.
And so we live in a world in which people are confused because they are relying on the world for answers. Ordinary people, as opposed to believing and trusting in the God, okay, you cannot see. He's not going to speak to you in a burning bush, but through your intentionality, your ear must be attentive to who he's sending in your path. People like yourself, like myself, other people that we know that are those people that speak life, to say, okay, I hear what you're saying. Let me hold this mirror up in front of you right now. Take a look at whose reflection is in the mirror. What have you done to this point that puts you in this position?
Yep.
And once we can recognize and look at that man or that woman in the mirror and take ownership of where we currently find ourselves, that's the point in which we begin the healing process, because that's that encounter moment, right? That's that moment where God gets us in a place. Your cousin is doing a 40-year bid, but that may be the very place that God had to place him in order for him to begin to turn him into the man that he's going to become.
And
So
I
he
do
may
believe
have
that.
missed out, huh?
And I do believe that 100%.
Yeah, he may have missed out on his youth, but God saved him from himself.
He
So
did.
that when he did the Saul to Paul moment, where he took his sight away, your cousin, when he opens his eyes up, will not be the same person that he was when he went into prison if he allows Jesus to do that moment and shape him and to change the way that he used to look.
I believe
Tell
that
people all the time, my name is Raymond. But when I had my encounter with God and he saved me and he changed me, my name became Ray. And that's the name I go by. Ray is light. Ray is hope. Ray is trust. Ray is reconciliation. Ray is taking accountability. Ray is being intentional. Feel me? So I love the fact that you created this platform. I see it as we're talking now, like we're gonna have to set up time where we just have real talk sessions with you.
That's what I want to do, man. That's what I want. I want the church to have more faith-based, faith-driven discussions like this one. Like I said, right? You go to church and shout, dance, give, participate, serve, hug, fellowship, all that great stuff. But how often do we talk about the dominion that we got from our God that we worship on a regular basis? So there's 3 things that I want to say in response to what you said, and I don't think I'm going to remember it all, but I'm going to try. The first thing that I want to say is, and I'm going to draw from what you said, when do we pause, analyze, review, and accept that some of the pain we're dealing with some of the hurt and disappointment we're dealing with is self-inflicted because of the decisions we've made. We know we can make some bad decisions. Somebody needs to show us. Now it's time for us to make some good decisions. So that's one. Some of what we're dealing with right now is self-inflicted, right? Even to the little things like I'm not going to allow what someone else has done or said or feels with their opinion to influence me and ruin my day and ruin my future and ruin my plans. Simple decision, but big change, right? Big benefits. The second, you said something that I believe John Maxwell gave you guys about buy-in from the messenger.
The law of the buy-in.
The law of the buy-in, right? Can you say the phrase again?
People won't believe in the message until they believe in the messenger. Meaning that, say, take Dr. Martin Luther King, take Gandhi. Those are two good examples.
So let me give you this. Joyce Meyer says that the words that come out of your mouth go into the ears of those around you as well as your own ears, meaning you hear you when you're talking. Just suppose that there are people right now that have not bought into the message because they don't believe in the messenger. But the problem is they are their own messenger. So you can tell someone all day long, hey, you're great, you're brilliant, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You have so much potential. You're going to become wealthy. You can say whatever. And because they don't believe in themselves as the messenger, because again, those words that come out of your mouth go into your own ears, right? So you've heard you talk badly about you. You have heard you speak negatively about you. And therefore, because you don't necessarily believe in you, now you have issues with dealing with the message. Come here, Gideon. Gideon, thou mighty man of valor, right? I'm going to use you to deliver Israel. Now, that's nice, Lord, but if that were the case, why has all this befallen us, right? His response to the affirmation, to the calling, is the past, his struggle, his insecurity. My family is the smallest of all of us, the least of all of us, right? The angel ain't saying nothing about you being least. He ain't saying nothing about you, the reason why you shouldn't be qualified, right? And so I think a lot of times we make choices out of insecurity. We make decisions out of lack of self-worth and self-value. And I think that, and this leads into the third thing I want to say. My book talks about partnering with God. So you're not just making decisions on your own. You're not just out here just taking stabs in the dark, right? Because God is the one who gives us insight. The Holy Spirit is the one who gives us guidance and understanding. And Jesus is the one who gave us the freedom in the first place to utilize the dominion that we got from the Father. So we're partnering with God. Like, we're not out here on our own, just pointing in a dark direction and say, I'm gonna just do that. No, God is with us, right? And so I think, as you were saying much earlier in the conversation, when we walk with God, we're able to make the right decisions. God will let you know when you're moving in the right direction and when you're not, right? I'll give you an example, right? David is taking the people of Israel into battle, right? He prays to the Lord and he says, Lord, if I forgot what the battle approach was, but let's just say attack them a frontal attack, right? We attack them head on. Will you give us success? And the Lord says, yes, proceed, attack. I will give you great success. David does it. They overpower the other army. They win. Now they got another battle. I believe it's the same army. And David says, you gave us victory the last time. So since you gave us victory the last time, can I take the same approach? And the Lord said, no, circle around them this time and I'll give you success. And a lot of times what we do is we forget to partner with God when making decisions, right? We go, okay, this worked the last time, so this is what I'm going to do now. And God's like, no, I got another method for you. I know it's the same enemy or the same situation or the same circumstance, but you have to take a different approach. So when we're making decisions, we need to understand the power and value of partnering with God to make the right decisions. And so I talk about that in this book as well.
And that happens because when you get to know God, you get to know the messenger, right? Yeah. The disciples followed Jesus as they got to know the consistency, the knowledge, the wisdom, the righteousness of the messenger. People come to Christ Nation each and every Sunday because they see and they hear the word in a way that finally resonates with them because of the messenger. The person that is consistent, the person that you can see on the pulpit or you can see in Walmart. It will be the same person. And so people can trust and believe that you are the person that you say you are. You are the messenger that you say you are. And that's where I was coming from in terms of like with the buy-in. And like something that you said earlier really resonated with me in terms of because I was hearing legacy, right? And one of my favorite lines that I'm paraphrasing from Black Panther is when T'Challa's talking with his dad in the afterlife, and he says the worst thing that a father can do is not prepare his family for the time of his death.
Yes, sir.
And we have the ability. What will be your obituary? What will be your story? What will be your legacy that was in alignment with the Lord and led people to see the light and said, look, if this guy can do it, and he's been through not only the same thing, but he may have been through things worse, and he still stands on the solid rock. That's the man, and that's the God that I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know his God. I want to know why the Lord that saved him and brought him to where he needed to be. And our life story is still to be written.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to be 64. You're a
Really?
lot younger
That's
than
crazy.
me. And so
when did you get old?
exactly. When did that happen? You know, I say that to myself all the time, especially when I'm like shaving the grays down.
Hey,
I'm
listen, I
going
got them too,
completely
believe
white.
it or not. I got them too,
I'm
believe it or
going
not.
completely white. I've had a Moses moment. I went up. I had some darkness in my beard.
It's wisdom. It's wisdom. You got to keep it. It's wisdom.
But you know, and there's still much more for us to learn. There's still so much more for me to learn because I came out the gate late. But through the book that I'm writing, right, A Heart for God, one man's message to men, and then the other one is Full Circle. I'm trying to help people, and particularly men, understand that our evolution is a lifetime. There is no set timeline to when you're going to become a man. But if you're intentional about being a man, if you're intentional about being accountable, by looking at yourself and understanding what mistakes you made and submitting to the will of God, he will make you new. He will hear you in a different, see you in a different way. You will have that Jacob moment where, you know, God said, look, man, this guy, I gotta knock him off me because he's coming after me hard. This is where we're at. And I like the fact that you have put this book together. And I want you to really get it out there, and anything that we can do here at the Bold Lounge to help you promote and get that book out. I wasn't kidding when I said, look, man, we got to get some time where we just have a, you know, we can call it whatever, corner where we just have a real talk moment, and whatever topic is dealing, because that will also help your parishioners see and hear you from a different, you know, mindset. I know you. I know you more than just being on a pulpit. We've had a lot of real talk moments at Elmont Memorial High School and everywhere else.
Yeah. You know, I again, I appreciate you for this. I love that we are able to have this conversation. I got to insert something here because you just struck a chord with me. You talked about being a man, right? And this applies to women growing up, maturing, and becoming women, right? You got to choose to be what you're supposed to be, right? And so you brought up Pastor Joshua Rod. I was in this terrible relationship and I just kept calling him like, yo, what do I do? And one day he just stopped me. Son, what kind of man are you? And he would not explain the question. He would not break down what he meant. So at first, I mean, what you mean? What kind of man am I? Like, you trying to square up? Like, what's going on? And he's, son, what kind of man are you? And he kept asking me that question, just kept asking me the question no matter what I said. And so finally, I went to trying to answer him. And he said, okay, good. We got to start. That question rang in my head probably for months. And it wasn't long after that where I realized, okay, as a man, I've got some choices to make. And it was as a result of that and some other conversations that I had that led me to realize I'm choosing this horrible relationship. I'm not married. We ain't got no kids. I don't have to stay here. I don't owe you nothing. You don't owe me nothing. And one day I woke up and something shifted in me like, yo, choose. I prayed a prayer. I'm sure this is in this book as well. Some young brothers asked me how I got to this place where I'm married and, you know, kids, wife, happy life, all that, right? And I'm like, it wasn't always like that. I know more about divorce than I know about a good marriage. I know more about a toxic relationship than I know about a healthy one. So I'm the guy that knows what not to do, but my wife's parents have been married since Jesus was crucified. And so she knows more about the what to do, right? So she knows more about what to do. And so I decided in that time of struggle and embarrassment, I'm never going to experience this again. And I prayed, I said, God, I didn't even realize the power of what I was praying. I said, God, when the time comes, I want you to give me the woman that I want. Now, what I actually said was, God, I want you to give me the opportunity to choose for myself based on what I want. It's a long, long, long story. I wasn't interested in the girl that I was with at the time. I heard a preacher say something like, God is going to give you a spouse according to your calling and your purpose and not your preference. And the church went crazy. He's a mega church preacher. And I took that like he was talking to me. And I'm sitting in this relationship with this girl, and it was a horrible mess, man. I can't go into the situation without airing our business out, so I'm not going to do that. But it was
I get it.
embarrassing. It was embarrassing, and everything changed for me when I made a choice, and that's when I learned what kind of man I was for real. Because I had started to change. See, if you continue living and just allow life to happen to you, you continue to exist, life will change what kind of person you are. Life will change what kind of man you are, what kind of woman you are. But when you start to make some decisions and say, this is who I am and I'm sticking to it, your life will respond to the choice you make to stand on your square and to be who you were called to be. And of course, when you have God with you, you will make the right decision. So I just want to be a help to somebody. I want to give somebody the message of the gospel in another way that will help them, that doesn't require the organ, drums, praise team, people jumping and shouting. This is the gospel too in a different context. So
Right.
that's why I wrote
That's
this book.
right. That's right. And keep telling young men when they ask you the same question that was asked to you. What kind of man are you? Because a
Yep.
lot of times we'll blame the woman, we'll blame the world
Yep.
for the
Yep.
decisions that we make, but it's
Yep.
a reflection of who we are and what we stand for, especially when we don't know, when we don't have a proper blueprint. And
Yep.
what God is saying that you don't have to have a physical blueprint. The blueprint is in my book.
That's
You
right.
go to Proverbs and I give you a whole instruction manual. It's there. But we have
Yes,
to
sir.
know, they have to know to go to that. And that's what it is. In this world that we are in now, people don't know how to get to God's library.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
we as the spiritual librarians have to point them to the right books to begin to grow because
Yeah.
it's, I was talking last Thursday, I volunteer at a juvenile um, correctional center,
Okay.
young men that are incarcerated from 12 to 18 years old, and sitting there with the young brothers, and we give them Bibles and they're talking to them about scripture or whatever, and I'm listening to the questions that they're making, and I just broke it down like this. I said, look, I'm going to try to make this easy for you to make you want to pick up this book, because that's what it is. You're afraid to pick up something you don't understand. And it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
easy to sell drugs. It's easy to rob people. It's easy to rape people. It's easy to do all of those negative things because it's just a spontaneous choice you make. But to open up something and read and gain knowledge, you're apprehensive. So we're going to do it like this. I took one person, one adult, and I said, all right, imagine this person is God. Now, imagine I'm Jesus. Today's God's draft. You can look at it, NBA draft, NFL draft, baseball, whatever your sport of choice is. They were like, all right, football, football. All right. So I say, so that person is the owner. That's God. I'm Jesus. I'm the general manager. I now stand between you and the owner, and I ask the owner to draft you. I said, I want to draft this guy. Tristan, one of the guys was Tristan. I said, I want to draft Tristan. He's got some stuff going on with him, but I think we can work it out. So the owner tells the general manager, okay, draft him. Now you gotta play for me, and you gotta learn the playbook. What's the playbook? And one guy said the Bible. Yes, the Bible is the playbook. You gotta
Yes, sir.
learn what all the plays that's in this book. So me,
Yes, sir.
now the general manager, I put you on a team. I got to give you coaches. You got coaches on the team. Those are called disciples. Anybody have heard of disciples? Yeah, we heard disciples. He had 12. Okay, he had 12 disciples. Okay, you got to learn who they are and how they got to where they are. So now you have coaches. You got the playbook, you got coaches. I give you a uniform. What's on the front of the uniform? What's the name on the front of the uniform? The team, okay? The team is called God. That's the brand. Y'all good with brands, right? Because y'all wear Nikes and all that. Everybody start chuckling. Yeah, I like it. Okay. So the brand is God. On the back of the jersey, what is usually on the back of the jersey? Your name. Okay, great. All right. So God, the owner, has given you the playbook. He's giving you your identity. your new identity. He's giving you a purpose. You're now going to play for him and you're going to rep his brand.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you win? Well, I got to score a touchdown. Okay, how do you score a touchdown? I got to get the ball. Okay, that's called provision. So he's giving you the playbook. He's giving you the plays. He's giving you the ball. He wants you to get in the game. And what do you do when you get in the game? Oh, I score. He wants you to win. That is faith. That is
Yeah.
believing in God.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. That is a really good example and a way to put faith, man. And I hear now biblically sound decision making here. I hear using the Bible as your playbook, right? And we know, listen, players don't always follow plays to the T. There's some room in them but ultimately, if I know the play, there's body language. There's certain things that I do that my teammates also understand, so that we're moving together in order to score and accomplish a win. I listen, man. I love that. I might have to steal that in basketball.
I tell people all the time to steal it.
in basketball terms, but I'm gonna coach you, Doc. I'm gonna coach you. I'm gonna make sure you get your credit.
The Holy Spirit gave me that years ago, about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And every time I tell it to people, they say, can I use that? Of course, it's not mine.
I love it, man.
It's not mine.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So listen, man, I appreciate you once again for the opportunity to come here and share and let everybody know about the book. So the book is available April 3rd, which is my birthday. It's available on Amazon. You'll be able to get the Kindle version and the hard copy. I'll also be doing a book release party in the Queens, Elmont area on April, I believe. So stay tuned for more information. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Threads. I don't use Twitter much or X much. And then TikTok. So stay in touch with me. It's Pastor. You'll find me and you'll see more information about
And
this
the
book.
the title again?
The title is Choice Changed My Life.
Choice Changed My Life. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great segment of the Bold Lounge with my brother, Pastor Leo Corley. We wish you nothing but blessings. You know, I always got your back. I know this book is going to be a bestseller. There are people out there that need to hear. People out there that need to hear it. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a bestseller because it came from the heart and it came from you being obedient to God calling you to do this. So this has been the Bold Lounge. Believe, overcome, lead, and deliver. This is what we do here. Real talk, real folk, real outcome, because ultimately we want to be a light in a world that is dark. So blessings to everybody. See you next time on the Bold Lounge.